The Dresden plate is a classic and one of Sarah's favorites.
On today's episode, we get to play with 3 different Dresdens, so I can show you different methods for cutting using a ruler or a template.
And we'll show how to create the centers with curved piecing and applique.
Learn to sew bountiful sunflowers on today's episode of Love of Quilting.
Hi, you're watching the 4100 series of Love of Quilting. I'm Angela Huffman.
And I'm Sarah Gallegos.
And Sarah, I know you love pinwheel blocks, but I think a Dresden plate is your second favorite, if I were to guess.
Today it's my first favorite.
Is it?
I do. I really love Dresdens. I think they're so cute. And this quilt by Natalie Crabtree really hit the spot for me because there are 3 different types of Dresdens on it. So I'm actually making a smaller version. I think you could easily turn this into table runners as well,
yeah.
or do the whole quilt. And I had a ton of fun making it. And what I love about it is that you've got, again, 3 different types of Dresdens of different sizes. So you get to play with different layouts. So we're going to be creating, like I said, 3 different types of Dresdens where they're all pointy, because some, you know, of course, are rounded, but these are all the pointy type, just of different sizes. And then we get to play with a little bit of curved piecing, a little bit of applique. So it was a lot of fun to create.
All right,
this.
let's dive in.
Yeah. So with these different sizes of Dresdens, I went through all my Dresden rulers, and of course I've got a whole bunch of them, to see if any of them could be done with the ruler, and only one of them was. So with the other 2, I needed to use templates. And when I was working with my templates, I found that I kept kind of losing them on the table, right? And I was afraid that I was going to cut through one, so I just put a couple little stickers on them. I like little smiley faces here. And just kind of keep in mind when you're working with plastic templates like this, I think sometimes people are tempted to rotary cut next to these.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah, because you slice a little off here, a little off there, and before you know it, they're a different size.
Right.
So what I did was I just took a fabric marking pen and just marked the edges right on the corners, just like so. And I stacked up several different pieces of fabric all at once. I think I've got 4 of them here. And I would just mark a couple from each size template with my pen. And I'm just giving myself the corners of the template, just like that. Then you can come through with your rotary cutter and just line up the marks. Now you do end up wasting a little extra because you're, over cutting to get to each of those straight lines, but so I just picked a bundle of your fat quarters and cut a whole bunch of them, just a few at a time, and was able to really easily and quickly cut out all of those little Dresden pieces. So there is one of our skinny little Dresdens. So now to stitch these, pretty fun, right? Yeah. So it was fun just to play with all the different fabrics. I did lights and darks so I could kind of alternate in my blocks. And what you do is you just fold it in half on the wider edge. And
right sides together.
Right sides together. And if you would just stitch that with a 1/4-inch seam for me.
Would you say that a particular size of the plate is easier than other sizes?
Good question. I think that they're all fairly easy, to be honest. The pressing's a little trickier when they're skinnier, but they were all pretty easy to make. So once you've got your Dresden wedge like this, then we're just going to, I just kind of fold it over my finger to turn it. And then you're going to take a little skewer, this is actually one for cooking, or your stiletto, whatever you like, and get that nice and straight. And it is really kind of important when you lay it out to make sure that you've got a straight line when you press this, because if your seam is a little crooked, what happens is, and I'll go ahead and press it, I'm pressing it wrong so you can see what it looks like.
It'll point askew.
Yeah, you don't end up with perfectly straight points. So then when you try to sew them together, they don't line up exactly correctly. So it makes it off a little bit. And sometimes what ends up happening, and you don't want this, is one of your wedges sticks up higher than the other. So we're going to set him aside because I need to make sure that I remember to replace that. And then once you've got several of them pressed out, you're going to stitch them together. I do it in 2s, and then I would stitch my 4s together. And then you just keep creating a big old circle.
And so you just line up that first point.
Yeah.
And then head down with a regular old 1/4-inch seam.
Correct. Yeah, I definitely like to start from the fold edge and work my way down because that bottom raw edge gets covered by the center applique. So if that ends up shifted just a tiny little bit, it's no big deal. It's that top part that really needs to look just right.
Yeah, I could see where when it doesn't line up at the bottom, you might panic a little bit, but it's
Right.
okay. It'll be covered up.
Totally fine.